Okay, I got it. Okay. An interesting story that how did I get involved? I never participated myself in the Chidon Tanakh. I did have 7 students over the last, not including this year, 10 years that went to the Chidon Tanakh Olami. I went, except for the last one, last year's tied for 4th, end up 5th place winner, who's actually in Michlala this year. But that's Ilana Rosenblatt from New Jersey. But anyhow, so, I in my email, I'd said, Kol hamarbe or hamarba, harei ze / zo mishubach or mishubachat. We have a saying that, not me, Chazal say that you can't compare a person who's learned the material 100 times to a person who learns it 101 times. The person who did 101 times, one of the reasons is that that people say is everyone learned it 100 times. So it's nothing special to learn something 100 times. But the person who did 101 times, at that extra one time, he went over and above. It's like a cab driver. You can charge $10 for going 10 miles, but if he goes 11 miles, he can charge $20. As in Israel would say, c'est lo fair, but he went the extra distance. Okay, so the key thing is in preparation. I cannot control what your expectations are in the sense of, some people. I had a student who went to the Chidon Tanakh Olami, and he was happy as a pig, even though pig's not kosher, and he ended up in 20th place. He did not want to be on stage, which means the top 16, the highest 16 markers of the written test. When you get to Israel, I think the second day that you arrive, they give you a written test, give everyone's a written test, and the top 16 students, the highest marks, will be on the stage, in Binyonei Oma, or wherever they so desire, assuming that everyone can make it.
Teatron Yerushalayim, the Jerusalem Theater.
That's a Teatron Yerushalayim.
But by the way, the past 2 years, I'll just interject and say that the past 2 years, that early stage, the preliminary round, which decides who are the top 16, was done ahead of time, about before Pesach, online because of the corona. And I heard behind the scenes that it's a consideration also for this year, meaning it is possible that it'll happen earlier rather than later, just because we really don't know what the travel regulations will be, and assuming we things will be different, we want to be ready in case there's sudden changes in the rules. But it hasn't been decided yet. It'll be decided sometime soon, and we'll let you know, obviously. But it's also
to me, for you, the goal should be at least, in Hebrew, minimum is to be in top 16. Okay. And sometimes the difference between top 16 and below could be a difference of 1 or 2 points. Okay. The truth of the matter is, if you really want to say, you should shoot for at least the top 8. At least top 8. But again, this is up to you. And then
but no pressure, as they say.
No, honestly, no pressure, really. It's what you want.
Do we want, maybe if each one of you can just introduce yourselves, quickly, and maybe Roubi, they can ask you. You had the question of how many times did you review, or you want to review the material? Is that a good lead question?
Well, that's the idea.
If you want to share,
you already reviewed it. Unfortunately, because at this time, it's as it is for this week. It's 40 prakim. But something this is saying, right? I tell my students, assuming an elephant was kosher, how can you eat an elephant? Assuming an elephant was kosher, how can you eat an elephant? Not a trick question. The answer is 1 bite at a time. So what happens is the concept, at least my perception is, okay, this week was 40 prakim, okay? If you take each day, it says 7 days in a week, right? Usually, okay? So let's say that 40 prakim, so that's roughly about 6 prakim a day, okay? That's if you just want to do the material. Obviously, the more times you go over it, the better, hopefully, it will be in terms of sinking in, okay? And I'm going to show you certain books that I would recommend, you know, but the thing is, I know one student of mine, she used index cards because the certain top, and this is part of learning, you know, numbers, places, who said to whom, you know, interesting words that appear, like for example, Bedolach, I think appears in the Tanakh only twice, okay? And happens to be in our material also once, Bedolach. We talked about Ketonet Pasim is mentioned only twice in Tanakh, okay? And there's certain books which kind of lead
Somebody
you.
somebody know the second answer other than Yosef? Somebody who just joined us now? Where else is mentioned Ketonet Pasim?
See,
Tamar.
you know, Yitzchak, what do you say?
Say that Tamar.
Yeah.
Yep.
By the way, where is that? I can read Amichai's
It's right at
mind.
Yeah, you want to say where is it on the page? Tell us.
Then
Me?
it's in Shmuel base.
Yeah, that. Shmuel
It's-
Beis what?
Perak Yud Gimel.
Well, that's pretty good. And the
Very
pasuk,
good.
that'd be really unbelievable.
I don't remember what pasuk.
It's pasuk Yud Chet. It's
Yud
on
Tet.
in the
Yud Chet and
Tanakh
Yud Tet.
Koran. In the
Twice,
Tanakh Koran,
yeah.
it's on the
Yud Chet and
right-hand
Yud Tet.
side. It's about, I would say about 85% down. But no, testakel, Amichai, is about, it's about pasuk Yud Chet, right?
Yeah, Yud Chet and Yud Tet. Twice.
I know Yud Chet is it's numbers. It's like, for example, it says the thing of lo navi anochi v'lo ven navi anochi. Where is that? Famous pasuk. Anybody want to guess? It happens to be in Amos Perek Zayin pasuk Yud Daled. And the way I remembered, it's me. It's numbers. So it's Perek Zayin. What's double 7? It's 14. Hey, we know that Amichai says, where is it? So I'll tell you, it's in the Tanakh Koran. It's on the left-hand page, the top, about 3rd or 4th line.
Okay, so before everybody gets scared, you don't have to remember the Perek and Pasuk.
Correct.
Although if you did watch the Chidon Levugarim, the adult Chidon this year and also last year, the guy who won, Liron Ben Moshe, actually almost every time he quoted, he said, "Tzfania perigil b'tzayin," of course. So, but you don't have to know exactly
don't have
where
to,
it is.
no.
Why
In fact,
don't you all introduce yourselves now, just quickly, so
Please.
we can
Wanna go with
get to know
Miriam?
you a little bit better, where you come from, and also what you expect perhaps from this learning, and then you
we'll
can get down
into
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's start by the closest. So we'll start in England. Miri.
I'm Miri Garber. I'm from London, England. And what else should I say?
About the studying for the Chidon, what you did already, what you want to do, how you do it, whatever you want to share.
So I personally highlight the Tanakh. I go over it like that. I've gone over about 3 or 4 times. Yeah.
Thank you. And we should mention that some of you already had their national test a while ago. Some of you just had it recently. And the material between the national test and the international test obviously is not the same. So even if you learned for the national test, you certainly have what to add to the international test. Thank you, Miri. So if we're going to stay in London, so Hadassah, you're next.
My name is Hadassah Resht. I live in London, England, and I also learn by highlighting. And I've gone through it like maybe 3 or 4 times, and yeah.
Thank you, Hadassah. Let's go to Manchester. Livia.
Hi, I'm Livia. I actually lived in South Africa for 10 years and I moved to England. Whistler has been my best friend throughout this entire year.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's now stay within the realm of the English control, and we'll move to Canada. So we'll start with Toronto because they speak English there.
I'm Nava Benxius, from Toronto. I'm up to like in Navium Acronym, but Torah and Navium Rishonim I've reviewed a few times.
Thank you, Nava. Now let's go to Montreal.
I'm Lila Silberger. I'm from Montreal, and I've read it over 1.5 times, and some of them I've done more, and I'm attempting to write notes. I don't know if that will work.
1.5 times. Wow. Thank you. Okay, so let's stay in North America. Let's start with the northern part of New York. Let's go to Yitzchak.
Hi, my name is Yitzchak Spivak, and I'm from Muncie, and I study by just going over Sukkim over and over again, and I'm gonna try to write stuff down if there's details that I want to make sure I remember.
Thank you, Yitzchak. Elisha?
I'm Flatbush, New York. I'm Alicia. I study by like leaning a lot, and yeah, and I repeat stuff like the parak 3 times.
Repeating and reading the Torah. Now, Abigail, I'm sorry I skipped you because I think you, Abigail, you're with us?
Hi. Hi.
So, Abigail, were you in the Chidon?
Like
2 years ago? 1 year ago? 2 years ago?
Just see if I could get any study tips. I learn with the 3 English girls.
Okay, so you're from the teacher side. Okay, good, that's fine. Ner le'echad, ner le'me'ah, as we say. Okay, so let's go to South Africa. Ladies first. So, and we have 2 ladies, I think. So Gabriela has her camera on, so you're first.
My name's Gabriela. I like to learn by highlighting and asking myself questions and writing the questions down. And I've nearly gone over the syllabus once, and hopefully I'll do it many more times.
Thank you. Hannah?
My name's Hannah Sussman. I like to learn by like writing on sticky notes in my Tanakh. And I think I've gone over the syllabus maybe 3 times.
Wow, very nice. ואחרון חביב. Jake Weinstein.
I'm Jake Weinstein. I mainly learn by using questions and flashcards, and I've gone over the syllabus about 3 or 4 times.
Good.
Okay, so great. The floor is back to you, Ruby. So
okay,
I'm just gonna say that every time, I didn't send everybody the syllabus yet that you sent me, meaning the division into chapters, but it's gonna be every time going over 40 chapters. So in order. Of course, approximately.
Okay. So first of all, this is not the first Koran which I've used. The first one which I used, that wasn't even the first one before that, but before this one, the pages were just in such disarray. They were falling out. My comments, because my fingers are oily, so a lot of things were getting smudged out. Personally, I'm going to recommend whatever Tanakh you use, do not change the size. In other words, this is a certain size Tanakh, right? The next time I'm going to go over the material, it's not going to be a different size, even if it's Tanakh Koran. For sure, I'm not going to switch it to another Tanakh, like a Tanakh Simanim, okay? It's important from a remembrance and memory perspective. I'm going to show you certain books which can help. I'm not saying. There's a Dr. Amital, which he had a series of 3 books. This is Nach Miodea, there's Chamisha Miodea, and there's another Nach Miodea, which has all the questions are in Hebrew and they have the answers to them. Not every answer is accurate, but but it's pretty good. Then that's one thing. An aid which I use at times, if I don't have a concordance, I don't know if those who are familiar with know what a concordance is a concordancia, concordance, and that's if you want to look up a word, this is a great thing. There used to be an older version of the concordance by Mandelkorn, but which my father had, but since I had this, I didn't need that. But there's also, you can use the app Sfaria. I don't know if you're familiar with that. So what happens is that then there's this excellent book, and it's called Hatanach Sha'ashuai. The person who wrote it was a guy named Ben Artzi, who's the father-in-law who was the father-in-law, I don't know if he's still alive, of Bibi Netanyahu, and Bibi Netanyahu had his sons partook in the Chidon Tanakh. This is an unbelievable, it's a really hard book.
There's a picture of him with his family, including Bibi in the book.
And when I heard about this, I said, I have to have this. They are really good, excellent questions. There's a pairs, and they have the questions and answers. For example, Eizo ritzpa hi isha ve'eizo ritzpa hi gachelet. It's a classic. What happens is, I'll ask Yitzchak, since I have a feeling you would know this. So the question is, who is ritzpa? Ritzpa is normally a floor, but where's a ritzpa that is a woman, and where's a ritzpa which is a gachelet?
Ritzpah Basaya and the Ritzpah of the Malach, the other Ritzpah.
Yeah, so
this week's Haftarah, of course. Yesterday's Haftarah.
You could say, right, correct. This past week's Haftarah. So what happens is the first one is Ritzpah Bataya, which is Shmuel Bet Perek Chaf Aleph, okay, and the Ritzpah is in Shayahu Perek Vav, with the Malach, or Saraf, maybe you could say, okay. But this is, but it's a great question because you have to think out of the box. A word can mean, for example, lose, okay. It happens to be in our material today. Where does it mention lose? And we have 2 different things, and lose means different. It's different in the 2 places. Anybody want to guess? It's today's material.
There's the lose in Beit Cal, and also it's the same lose with which Yosef conquered in Yeshua. With the guy who left the city and then they got him.
Show us the entrance of the city.
You have, I was thinking.
It's also by us with the sticks, the Yaakov peeled, Lach, Beluz, V'Armon.
Right. That happens to be in Perek Lamed, right? It's in Reshit. That's, I would say, that material.
I wonder, I'm just going to interject with a question. Because I know when you participate in the Chidon, you're able to do it either in Hebrew or in a different, whatever your language is. In this case, your language is English, but obviously other people have other languages. How many of you are actually planning to do the test in English and not in Hebrew? So if, for example, luz is the name of a place, so you will know that, but if the word luz, like the second luz that you mentioned, which is a kind of a stick, I think, probably, of wood.
Lach luz, it's not, I don't think it's a stick, it's a material, Lach luz v'armon.
I'm just looking at the translation here at the Steinsalz Chumash. So it says Lach ve'luz.
Armon. It's the middle of the pasuk. I only know that because it's laning.
Yeah.
Gabrielle, you want to say something?
Oh no, I was just saying that I'm gonna probably write the test in English.
I'll tell you an interesting trick that I saw. It was
Almond, by the way, it's translated as almond. Jacob took for himself rods of fresh poplar and almond
it's a material.
and cling.
It's a material. Yeah. So what happens is there was someone from Passaic who actually was tied for the Chidon Tanakh Olami, the international, and he was in the final. This is the final round, you know. It was unbelievable.
Yishai Eisenberg, no?
Eisenberg, yeah.
Yeah, Yishai Eisenberg,
he was
2013.
ninth grade. He went to MTA. He was ninth grade at that time. So what happens? He wanted to buy time. So he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that." So they had to repeat it. So he bought like 5 to 10 seconds. Those 5 to 10 seconds, helped him, to remember the answer. So, it's nothing wrong. It's Hebrew. The question could be in Hebrew. So you can say, "Oh, excuse me, could you repeat that question?" And you're buying time to click also the brain. It worked. It was unbelievable. As they say, it's a trick in Chinese trick. Oh, there's one other thing that I wanted to show you. So this is a great book in terms of questions. Tanakh Shashuai. Then there's this book that actually my first student who went to the Olami received. It's good. It says Lagat Bapsukim. What's the beauty of this thing? Okay, this is the book that she got, but what happens is she wanted to give me hers. I said, "Oh no, I can't do that. You should get the special certificate inside." So I ordered this. So it goes through the different the whole Tanakh, but doesn't go through every single pasuk by pasuk. But it highlights, it like shows in colors words from different psukim and not all the psukim. So it's really good. Then they have other things like for the kings, in the back. So it's a really good book. If in other words, if you want a shortcut, sort of. For example, to me, I always find Mishlei very hard to remember. It's all these psukim, you have different things. Actually, in Perek Chaf Gimel Mishlei is a famous thing about Zolel v'Sovei. Does anybody remember where Zolel v'Sovei is mentioned in the Torah? I'll give you a hint.
By the Ben Sora Mora.
Happens to be in Perek Chaf Aleph in Dvarim. Okay, the beginning of Kitei, the third paragraph of Kitei. So what happens is there.
So maybe just maybe add the translations for those who learn in English.
Zolel is like a glutton and a person who imbibes, so much wine, etc. There's a whole parak in Masechet Sanhedrin about that. Did he exist? According to the Gemara, there's no such animal.
And how do you say Ben Sorer Umoreh in English? How would you say that?
A person who was revolted, against the parents, and doesn't listen to them. And the Gemara says he has to be between 13 and 3 months, something like that, But if you take a look at the Baal HaTurim actually wants to say that it's Avshalom ben David, that there was a Ben Soreh Moreh. It says Soreh Moreh, it's Zeh Avshalom ben David, and he's off by 9. There's a whole Torah about that, but I'm not going to get into it. Okay, so for example, one could ask, for example, in the Yemei Bereshit, which day does it not mention Tov?
The
second day.
Correct, second day. Right. Now, of course, it says in the 6th day, B'nei Tov Mo'od, in Yom Shlishi says pamayim, we say pamayim kitov. That's why, there's a school some people get married on the Tuesday, Monday night to Tuesday, because pamayim kitov. So it's like a good omen. Okay. Now, I just out of habit, I will circle again. For example, you have Vayhi bayom hashlishi. That phrase appears in many different places. In our material, it's mentioned at least, it mentions two places. Forget about bayom hashlishi. Bayom hashlishi is mentioned in another place in today's material. But Vayhi bayom hashlishi happens to be mentioned two places in today's review material.
On the third day.
I didn't say on the third. I said Vayhi. I'm very specific.
Vayhi bayom hashlishi. And it was on the third day.
Yes. So I'll give you a hint. One is Perek Lamed Daled and one is Perek Mem. That's a big hint. Big hint. See if I'd say Vayhi bayom hashlishi biyotam.
His like Lavan heard about he ran away on the third day.
I don't think it says Vayhi bayom hashlishi.
It says Vayhi bayom hashlishi yom huledet his paro.
That's one. That's Perek Mem. Where's the other one? How about
Nava, yeah?
I said Perek Lamed Daled.
I'm not sure there.
What is Perek Lamed Daled? Famous Perek Lamed.
What did you say, Nava?
No, it's okay.
So what else happened on the third
Is
day?
it when they the Brit Milah and they went and killed the people of Shechem?
Yes, that is correct. It says Vayhi bayom hashlishi biyotam koavim. Right, on the third day. It's Perek Lamed Daled Chamishi in Vayishlach. What was the name of the nursemaid of Rivka? I gave the answer, sorry. I was going to say, of Rivka. Yeah, sorry. Yes, it is Rivka.
Devora.
Dvorah, right. Okay. Does it mention that Rivka had a mayneked and place else?
In Parshas Chayisara, Vayishalchu Sevet Avraham es minikta. Vayishal Rivka es minikta.
Right. Right. That's interesting. It says mitov v'ad ra and ra tov. It's the reverse, but it's interesting that one person was involved in both situations. It happened to be Lavan. What happens is in Perek Daled in Breshit, it mentions Lavan and Betuel. It says we can't speak any bad about about Hashem, and then it says with Lavan and Yaakov in Vayetze, it also mentions Tovadcha. By the way, it's interesting. Is there Aramaic in the Torah? Aramaic.
Yagor Shehudat.
Say it again.
Yagar Shahadat Shehudata.
Yigar Sahaduta. Right, Yigar Sahaduta. Okay, now it's interesting, is an FYI, Hebrew and Aramaic, or in Hebrew, there are certain letters which are interchangeable. For example, I'm going to give you Bumaf, Bet, Vav, Mem, Pei are interchangeable. Ehvi, Aleph, He, Vav, Yud are interchangeable. There's another set called Lamnar, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Resh. Okay, just this has nothing to do with this. What I'm saying now is nothing to do with the Chidon Tanakh, but it's learning. Okay, and I feel that when we're going through the Chidon Tanakh, we're learning. So what happens is, who said the Yigar Saduta?
Lavan.
No. It says is Kahan, right? Okay, excellent. So what happens is Yigar. I said Lamed Mem Nun Resh are interchangeable. So what if I change Yigar is spelled Yud Gimel Resh, right? So what if I change the resh to a lamed? Okay, so what would you have?
Yagel.
Yigal, or gal, and sahaduta in Aramaic means edut. So it's gal aid. So what happens is Lavan said Yigal sahaduta, and Yav said gal aid. So it's just translation because Yigarin and the ration, for example, armelata. Armela is almana Armela is in Aramaic for a widow, and almana is a widow in Hebrew, and you have a double transposing. So this is to understand the Tanakh. If you have these things, these knowledge piece of information, you can understand, better the material. It's not just. And I tell all my students, there is so much information in the Tanakh, of words, of dikduk, of so much, and people just, I don't know how they don't see it. For example, okay, I'm gonna use a simple word, okay, hey lamed chaf hey. Hey lamed chaf hey means she went or she won. Okay, how would you pronounce that word? No trick question. It is semi-trick. How do you pronounce it?
Halcha.
Okay, so most people say halcha. Okay, and I say that's wrong. Okay, why? I guarantee you, without even looking in the Tanakh or Tikkun Simanim, it's going to be under the lamed. It's a shva. Okay, what happens is it's bolded. It's got to be bolded, which says it's a shvana, which means, and by the way, there is a meteg. And by the way, Yitzchak, if you take a look, for example, in the beginning of Kitetse, you said uvachata v'yashava. It's not yoshva, it's yoshava. Because if it's under the yud of yashava is a kamatz. Kamatz is tuna gdola. Therefore, it's the syllable. It stands by itself, and then the shva is a shvana. You can even
depends what kind of kamatz is it, doesn't it?
I just said it's a kamatz.
But doesn't it depend if it's a kamatz gadol or kamatz katan?
No, I would have said kamatz katan. So I'm saying what happens if it was a kamatz katan, it would be whole, like in Sfaradit, whole, and there would have to be a dagesh in a chaf. And there isn't. And there's a meteg between the hey and the lamed, which tells you it's a kamatz, which is tuna gdola. So that's why. And what happens, you'll see in the Tikkun Simanim, it's not going to be like elongated, the kamatz, which says it's a signal for as a kamatz or kamotz katan, which is tuna gdana. So the information is right there. It's vachata yashava halacha, not halcha. What can I tell you? The information is right there. I'm not no genius. I'm just happen to notice these things, and most people don't. Or for example, beged kefet, right? At the beginning of a word, does it get dagesh or not? Trick question.
If it's tamasharis on an open sound before it, then it doesn't.
Not exactly. You're very warm, getting warm. But what happens is what Yitzchak is saying, that in laning there are musical notes which are servants or rulers. Misharet is a servant, and for example, let's take Vayihi Bayom Hashlishi Biotam Koavim. Okay. I said Vayihi Bayom Hashlishi, not Bayom Hashlishi. Why? The answer is, I believe that there are 3 reasons why it's Bayom Hashlishi. Normally, you think Beged Kefet, Beis Gimel Dalet Chaf Pei Taf, at the beginning of the word would get a dagesh, but the fact is it's not. So the question is why? Okay, well, it has what we call a klishak tana, which is a servant trump, a servant musical note. Point number one. Point number two, what letter does it end with? A yud. We said ehevi, aleph hey vav yud. 3, it's milara. Okay, so for example, arza Kenaan, okay? Arza, for example, in the beginning of Lech Lecha, is Msharet, it's Canaan, okay? And it ends with Ehevi, hey, right? But it's Milael, Arza. So the Beit Kev holds true, Canaan. Okay, well, I'll ask a famous question. And it's in our material. This, again, it's not a question. And after I finish this, we're going to go right into fully into the material. Okay, I promise you. So what happens is, how do you say why in Hebrew? Not aside from madua. How do you say why? Not a trick question.
Lama.
What?
Lama.
Lama. Are you saying milael? Milara? No. Most of the time it's lama. Lama. But I'll ask you a question, okay? Why is it that sometimes, and most of the times it's lama on the lamed, and why is it sometimes it's lama? As an example, the next to last pasuk in Bereshit, Perek Chav Zayin, it says lama eshkal. Right? Lama eshkal shnechem b'yom echad, right? It's lama eshkal. If you take in the second aliyah of Lech Lecha, it's lama amarta achotihi, lama amarta achotihi. The pasuk before it is it's lama. Okay. You have, and I'm sure that Livia is going to say, Mr. Stepensky, the last pasuk in Perek Hey in Shmot, is Perek Hey pasuk Chav Bet. It says lama hareota lama zeh shlachtani. Same pasuk. Yeah, the lamed mem hey, but the first one says it's milara. The second one is milael. Or as Nava will say, that in Bamidbar Perek Yud Aleph, pasuk Yud Aleph, you have the same pasuk. One is lama, the one's lama, or vice versa. So why? One should ask that question, and I'm glad that you asked. And the answer is, now I didn't make it up. Even though if you look in the concordance, you would see a pattern presenting itself. And the rule is, Minchat Shai wrote about this. Minchat Shai was a commentary of Bal Dikduk, not Dikduk. And he said that it's Aleph, if the first letter of the next word is, he writes that Aleph, Hey, or Ayin, I would like to fine tune it and say Aleph sounding Hey or Ayin. Why do I say that, Amichai? Because in Vayichal, it says, Lama Hashem yechireapcha be'amecha asher oseda. And the next pasuk, Lama yomeru mitzrayim, right? So, but Hashem starts with Yud, but I said it's Aleph sounding. So it's Lama Hashem. You have Lama Eshkal in the next to last pasuk in Perek Chavchet in Bereshit. Okay, let's start. Interesting, I can go with this material and I still find gems. Who was the first person that it talks about a mishteh?
Lot.
What?
Lot, I think. Lot.
Who said Lot? Any other possibilities? I'm not saying yes or no. You have Avram, right? Yeah, okay. You have Paro, right? His birthday party. Okay.
Also,
and by the way, you also have Yitzchak.
Yitzchak and Avram.
Toledot, right? Notice I say Toledot, not Toledot. Toledot. Okay. Cholam is a Tuna right? So it's a Shvana under Lamed. Anyhow.
Lavan also made a mishteh when Yaakov
Right.
and married.
Perichav Tet. Okay. By the way, they're not going to ask you about the prakim. Don't worry. It's just that that's how my brain works. I apologize. Okay, so who was the first one? I heard one answer. Look, anybody else? How about Noah? The answer is Lot in Perikutet. Okay. Or for example, who was the first person who got drunk?
Noah.
Yes. By the way, you should just know, it's interesting. When I was growing up, I'd never heard of this. And my youngest brother said, he told me about this patach gnuva. Patach gnuva, you heard a stone patach? So what happens is, if you take a look at Tanakh Koren, for example, the Noach, okay, the patach is not under the chet. It's between the nun and the chet. So it's like Noach. In certain tikkunim, like the simanim, as an example, or another one which talks about the patach gnuva, like reach nichoach. Okay, the patach is not under the chet, but it's in between the next to last letter and the last letter. So it's patach gnuva, stone patach. For example, in Tehillim, I think, was it Kuf Yud Daled? It's Eloach Yaakov. So the patach there is not under the mapike, but it's between the vav and the mapike. Just, they're not going to answer that. We're learning. Okay. Who were the sons of Bilhah?
Zevulun and Dan.
Dan Naphtali.
I'll give you a way to remember, okay? What happens is, if you've gone over it, very close to the very beginning of Sefer Shmot, so it mentions the sons, right? So the question is, why is it broken that? And the first six were the sons of Leah. According to some Mefarshim, this is how it's broken down. So what happens is in Perek Aleph Pasuk Daled in Shmot, and it's not as good, but it relates to the answer to ours. So what happens is, it says in Pasuk Daled, Dan v'Naftali Gad v'Asher. Okay. Yeah. So what happens is Dan v'Naftali are Bilhah and Gad v'Asher are Zilpah. So all the children of the Shfachot were in that one pasuk. And since you could say, well, maybe because Rachel was in reality was favored over Leah, or what happens is in chronologically that Dan and Naphtali were born before Gad v'Asher. Okay? But so it kind of tells you the information. And how would you remember which Shivcha belongs to whom? So to whom?
Barzel.
What?
Barzel.
It's interesting. It's interesting. I understood what you meant. I had a different way of remembering. So what happens is the answer was you have Bilhah Rachel Zilpah Leah. That's what we saying Barzel. Okay. So I just remember that Beis and Reish are relatively closer to each other, right? I mean, from an alphabetical perspective, the Reish and the Beis, the two anyhow. Okay. So, and then that means you know that it's Bilhah and Zilpah. So if Bilhah is Rachel, that means Zilpah must be to Leah, right? It's interesting that most of the, I was just thinking of another question. Most of the children were named by whom? By Yaakov? By the mother? By
the mother.
Question. By the mother. In theory, you could say that there is a Yotzei Min HaKlal. And who was that?
Levi.
Yishmael. Oh.
Whoa.
Oh, what? That was before.
Who said Levi?
Me.
I can't see because is it Kahan?
No. I said the Yishmael was named by Abraham.
So who said Levi?
Me.
Yitzchak, you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, correct. It's interesting. Normally you see Vatikra, and all of a sudden came Karash Mo Levi. By the way, it's Levi, not Levi, right? It's like Reuven, not Reuven. Yehuda. Okay, right? It's unfortunately in English speaking, it's Yehuda, but it's Yehuda. Interesting. It's Korach, not Korach. But interesting. Okay. In connection to whom does it say V'ibanem mimena versus Ulai ibanem mimena? Battle.
I think Rachel said Ulai.
I think Ulai Ibanem Mimeno is with Sarah.
Ulai, you are correct, Hadassah. Ulai ibanem mimena is Sarah with Hagar, right? And the other one is V'ibanem mimena is Rachel saying it. Disgusting. I had a question. Another question. By the way, I don't make, I don't have it written down. So where's the first place it mentions, we have to give like, Truma and Maaser. Where's the first place it says Maaser?
Avraham gave Melchizedek.
It's interesting. The answer is correct, by the way. It's Perek Yudalid.
Maaser, a tithe, right? A tenth.
So what happens? A person might have thought it's Yaakov, Aser Asrenu Lach, right? But that's not the first place. It happens to be with Melchizedek. And the question is, the commentators say, who gave to whom? That's another question. It's like Bayech Shaver Lo Tzedakah. His question is not clear who's Vayach Shaver Lo. Is it referring to that Hashem is referring to about Abraham, or is it referring to Hashem? Yeah. Okay. About whom does it say? 1 second. Right. About whom does it say Va'apnei chol echav yishkon versus Apnei chol echav nafal?
Nafal is Yishmael.
Yishmael, go ahead. I'm not saying right or wrong. And how about Va'apnei chol echav yishkon?
Can you translate it?
And on the faces of his brothers, he will settle.
Esau?
Nope. The answer is also Yishmael.
Nope.
What happens if you take a look in Perek Tet Zayin, Pasuk Yud Bet, V'hu yeh pere Adam yado v'kol v'yad kol bo v'al pnei chol echav yishkon. It's referring to the bracha by Yishmael. And at the very end of Toledot, of Chayei Sarah, it's referring to Yishmael. Okay. At the last pasuk, it says, "Vayishkenu mechavila ad shur asher al pnei Mitzrayim boacha ashura al pnei chol echav nafal." Both are Yishmael. So I mean, this is how my mind thinks. It says, "Gee, it's a similar phrase, and is there a difference, you know, what, who, about whom, etc. And they could easily ask this, you know. I mean, usually you don't get these, usually the questions in Bereshit are, if there are questions in Bereshit, it's like in the first round in the, on the stage. And believe it or not, you know, some people find it difficult. Anyhow. How many children did Yishmael have? It's an easy question.
12.
12.
How do you know?
The
Answer's
Nisim,
quick.
the 12 Nisim.
Right, but what happens is if you take a look, okay, if you take a look at in Per Chafei, in the Maftir, it actually lists all the 12. Interesting that who was, just wait 1 second. Yes, who was the eldest of Yishmael? It's interesting. You'll see why I'm asking.
Nevayot.
Nevayot. Is
Nevayot.
Nevayot. Is Nevayot mentioned anywhere else?
Esav's wife was mentioned as being the sister of Nevayos, Basmath, or
Oh,
Machala.
Correct. And I'm reading Yitzchak's mind. It happens to be in Perek Lamed Vav, in Bereshit, today's material, right? This is a really, again, a very easy question, I'm telling you. Okay. Where does it say, just 1 second, I just like to make it official of quoting. Come on, keep on going. That's an interesting question. Okay. V'hinei to'omim b'vitna versus v'hinei tomim b'vitna.
The one with the extra olive was the one was Zerach and Perek.
I had a two-part question.
Oh, but the one with the olive was the Zerach Peretz, and the other one was the Esav and Yaakov.
Right. And that was when I lane, I specifically emphasized, in like in the beginning of Toldot, V'hinei tomim b'vitna. You know, of course, it's a mapikei b'vitna, b'veten shela. Okay. It's now this is an interesting one. Okay. I can't expect you to know unless you've gone through the material more than at least once. Okay. Amina Mar Hara Anochi versus Anochi Hara. One of them you should be able to do from today's material.
Bathsheba said Hara Anochi, and about Tamar she said Anochi Hara.
Wow, sign this guy up. That is correct. Okay, you have it in Shmuel Beis Perek Aleph in Pasuk what Hey or Dalet? Pasuk Hey, right? That's regarding Bathsheba and Anochi Hara. Oh, that's what. Right. Now, thank you for reminding me. Okay. So, and then that's Perek Lamed Ches, by the way, in Bereshit. Regarding whom do they say Hatachat Elokim Anochi versus Hatachat Elokim Ani?
Yosef said Ani.
Am I instead of God? No, I'm just gonna say.
Time out. This is like, I remember when I'm going with this, you know, I remember I had certain students in certain years who were like, you know, I'm not, that all the, let's say the girls, the young ladies would say, oh, whatever Elisheva says, you know, that's the answer. Or whatever Asher says, that's the answer, you know, because they were right. But okay, so I'd like to ask other people, Gabriella, you can say, I pass it off to Lila or Hadassah or Olivia, you know. So again, about whom does it say, who said, Hatachat Elokim Anochi versus Hatachat Elokim Ani?
Do you by any chance have the English?
Okay, they both mean the same thing. Am I the replacement? Am I God? Figuratively speaking, that's what it means. Both cases. But one is Anochi and one is Ani. And I'll teach you how I remember which is which. Yes, Lila.
Is one of them Yaakov to Rachel when she's complaining to him about having kids?
Yes, the question is which one?
Is it Anochi with Rachel?
Let's assume that you're right. I'm not saying yes or wrong, you're right or wrong. And what about Hatachat Elokim Ani? Okay.
Was that like Moshe?
No. What
Also in
happens
Bereshit.
Okay, it's in Perek Nun. In Perek Nun.
A little bit after this, the 40 chapters of today.
Yeah, right. It's next week. It's next week. But still, so what happens is the way I remember it, okay, that Hatachat Elokim Anochi is Rachel, because what did the pasuk before in Perek Lamed pasuk Aleph? She says, Bim'ayin meta Anochi, right? So what happens is, so Yaakov is using that same word, Hatach Elokim Anochi. When Yosef says to his brothers at the end of in Perek Nun, okay, it's in Shishi towards the end, okay. He says, Hatach Elokim Ani. What am I? Am I God? Am I replacing for him? So that's how I remember the differences. It was just interesting to see that he says, by the way, name me first of all, how many, and based on that, who were they when it says akara? That means she's barren. No kids. Akara. Okay, not your question.
Sarah.
Sarah is one, correct.
Rachel.
Rachel is two.
All the 4 imahot were couldn't all the 4 imahot.
No.
Do you want only in Bereshit or in like all the material?
Other material.
Hannah?
Chana, that's very good. That is correct. In the Tfilat Chana in Perek Beis, yes, correct.
The Isha Shunamit with
Nope.
Elisha?
Nope.
The other woman. Oh, that was
Should I give you a hint? I'll say Sefer Shofetim Perek Yud Gimel. That should tell you right away. If I say Perek Yud Gimel,
Manoach's wife.
Eshet Manoach. Eshet Manoach. Doesn't say her name, but it's Eshet
The mother
Manoach.
of Shimshon.
The mother of Shimshon, correct. In fact, actually, that's really interesting. You see, look at this. I don't even prepare. I have a shill in the audience. I said, okay, we have Timna or Timnata. Not Timna, the name, because that's tough, mem nun ayin. Okay. Timnata. Where is it mentioned? Which throws, by the way, Amichai, this throws me off another question, by the way. It's interesting. Go ahead.
Timna is not far from B'Shemesh, where I am.
Okay. Where's it mentioned, Timnata?
It's where
Shimshon's
Shimshon's wife.
Well, sorry, I didn't catch it. Somebody want to say the answer?
Shimshon's wife was from there, I think.
Oh, in Perek Yudale, that is correct. But why would I stop throwing, the Sefer Shofetim Perek Yudale? It's not in today's material. What happened to Tamar? Remember in Perek Lamed Ches, Bereshit, Timnata, right? Where Yehuda sends Isha Adulami to go check where was she? Where was this woman? I promised to give to Gdaye Izim, right? To Izim, And instead, and I left an Eravon, Tilcha Matcha, three things that he gave. Yeah, you're right. Three things, okay?
What was it? His
I'm
staff?
sending you to retrieve it, and he's going to Timnata, right? So you have two places, which reminds me, okay? To where did Yosef eventually go to find his brothers? That's question number one. And question number two is, where, is that place mentioned any place else in the Tanakh?
Dosan, and
What?
Elisha was Dosan, and Elisha was in Dosan when the Aram wanted to find them.
Sign her up. Correct, in Perek Vav. Okay, Perek Vav. That's where there's against Aram.
There was also a guy named Dosan with one of Esau's children. Like if it was like Dasan, Eitzar, Dosan.
In Perek Lamed Zayin or Lamed Vav, Lamed Zayin? Lamed Vav?
I think that.
I don't recall Dotan.
It was
Who was Esau's Bechor? Easy question. Who was Esau's Bechor?
Eliphaz?
Eliphaz, right. And who was Eliphaz's son? Well known?
Amalek.
Amalek, right. These are, but you know what? I want to tell you something, okay?
No, there's
I
no,
remember
there's Datan Vaviram.
Yes, Datan.
That's,
Okay, but that's
the
not
sons of
Dotan.
Reuven.
That is not Dotan.
No, that's Datan.
Yeah, Datan Vaviram, right. That's an interesting question, by the way. Where was the first place as mentioned?
There's Dishon. It's of Dishon.
Dishon. Yeah, it's of Dishon, not Datan. Dishon.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, believe me, that Aliyah, actually Shishi and Shvi, I try to shun away from laning because it's emerged. Actually, it's interesting. First of all, if you could ask, how many kings were mentioned through Esav before there was a king of Israel?
8.
Who said 8? Who said
Yitzchak.
8? Yitzchak's correct. It's 8. It's interesting, by the way, the word mehitav el bat matred bat mezahav. So first of all, you have zahav, which is interesting because you have a dizahav in Dvarim Alf, which you don't have to know. But mehitavel is mentioned some other place. I think in in Nehemiah. You know the name of mehitavel. Okay, I just my mind just wanders. Is so many things. Right, we did that. This is Stam. You can't ask this question. Is the word shemesh, sun, zachar or nekeva? Again,
Nekeva.
Really? Okay. The answer is in according to Rashi and according to the Tanakh, it's what we call in the Milon Zun, Zayin Vav Nun, which stands for Zachar Unkeva. You have, for example, it says in Perek Tet Vav, Pasuk Yud Zayin, Vayihi Hashemesh Ba'a, which is Nekeva. But of course, someone's going to quote me at the beginning of Vayetze, Kiva Hashemesh, right? Which is Zachar. So it's sometimes, could be both, but that's Stam. Where is there mentioned about a shoelace?
Abraham take the shoelace.
What?
To Berah, king of stone.
What was it again?
Abraham to Berah, king of stone.
Avram to
the king of stone.
Oh, king of stone, correct. Right. I tell you, it's me. Trust me. Trust me. You know, I was raised a little bit before you, before all of you. You know, even before Amichai. What happens is to me, I just the text is in Hebrew. You know, it just, you know, I understand the backgrounds are different, but you know, when I was growing up, I didn't English. I mean, they had these blue books with they had English. Are you kidding me? I just look at the Hebrew. You know, it's like I remember teaching my students. They ready? This is unbelievable. It mentions, I believe, in Shmuel Bet, Perek Yud. It refers to the son of Nachash Ammoni. So he says that Nachash passed away. David HaMelech sends, I don't know if it's this is Kainim, and to be Menachem Aver. You know, and what happens is says that he shaved half of their beards and he cut off their uniforms or clothing ad shtotehem. So I said, what is shtotehem? So the guy says, he says to me, buttocks. Buttocks, well, what are you talking about? So what happens if you take a look, it says in Mitzudat Tzion, if you want to know what words mean, Milon, in the Nach, you look in Mitzudat Tzion. Simple, just what the word means. So he says agavot. I said, English, buttocks. What is it? You know, buttocks is in Hebrew, yashvan, where we sit. Okay, so it's brought down agavot. So how do you say a tomato in Hebrew? Not a trick question. How do you say tomato?
Agvania.
Agvania, excellent. Do you know how you spell agvania? It's important to know this. It's ayin, gimel, vet, nun, yud, hey. What are the first three letters of that word? Ayin, gimel, vet. Agavot, buttocks, is spelled ayin, gimel, vet, vav, tav. Agavot. Okay? Ugav can also be like the person's in love. Okay? Think about from a Hebrew perspective. What is this common denominator of all those three things? It sounds like they're totally dissimilar. But if you think about it, the shape of an agvaniya, shape of a heart, and the shape of where you sit is the same, like this. Right? So there's logic to the Hebrew, you know, when there's the binyanim, there's mishkal. There's certain things that people don't notice this, but you say, with the connection to understand what you're learning, when you understand the Hebrew, you can then connect things together. That's all I'm saying. By the way, it's interesting, okay? Hapalit is connected, it's mentioned twice.
The refugee.
Avram and Goliath.
Yeah.
What?
By Avraham.
Yeah, what about Avraham?
Lot was captured, so Palit informed.
Good.
Is it also with maybe David, the person who came to tell him that Shaul was dead?
Nope. You're probably thinking of Perikalamed of Shmuel Aleph, but no. Okay.
It is a different war, indeed.
But there is one other place. I don't know if is Yechezkel Perikalamed Gimel in our material? Hold on, I'll tell you. I have it written down on a piece of paper. Hold on.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. Okay, but you have in Perikalamed Gimel also mentions Hapalit. Okay, Sorry, I can't answer. But so that means it's in your material, it's only mentioned once in the whole Tanakh. No. I was thinking, it's interesting. Al mina mar ivri.
Abraham.
Is that your final answer?
Yona said Ivri.
In Shmot, it's also he turned from Ish Mitzri to Ish Ivri at one point. Moshe.
Yeah, but I'm
Also,
saying
Yosef is now
in our material today.
Yosef.
Oh, it says right. It says Ish ha'ivri, and Eved ha'ivri. But the first one is mentioned in Vayavo Palit Vayeged LaAvram ha'ivri. That's the first time it's mentioned there. Okay. Yeah. Yes, it's interesting. It mentions B'tardema nafala. Do we have? Do you know any place where it mentions in your material B'tardema nafala?
With David when he was going into the Shaul's camp, and also Adam and Avraham by Fabrit ben Absarim.
Yeah, but I'd be very careful how you answered the beginning. Was it David or was it Shaul?
No, it was the everyone in the camp.
Yeah, so you have to be. I understood what you meant, okay, but I think sometimes you have to be careful. You know what happens is, I perceive, we're just listening to the Chidon Tanakh, you can know the material, but if you blurt out an answer, they could interpret it incorrectly. They could. I'm not saying will they. They could interpret incorrectly, and you say, David. David, what are you talking about? It's not David. It's, it's in Perek Chavav of Shmuel Aleph, right?
It's also by Adam, by Apel Kim Tardema Adam by Yishan.
Yeah, but notice I said B'tardema nafala. I was using that phrase. That's correct. It's interesting. I was thinking, Al Minemar. By the way, listen, Amichai, I apologize. I never look at my watch or clock, so.
Yeah, I think probably in the next 5 minutes or so, 5-10 minutes.
I apologize, but I never look at my watch or clock, So just what it comes to me. Okay. Yes. So you have mithalech, hitalech, vayitalech. About whom does it say that?
The Mishalech is about Hashem. Mishalech b'kerev machanecha v'hayo machanecha kadosh.
In Bereshit, mitalech is like walking, right?
Yeah, but the thing is that there are a few places. That reminds me about the next question. One more question. So you have in Perek Beis, it says, it's Perek Gimel. It's Perek Gimel. Yeah. It says, Vayishmu et kol Adonai Elohim mitalech pagan leruach hayom. That's mitalech. Hitalech. What happened to Chanoch and what about Noach? Vayitalech Chanoch et ha'elokim, right? Vayitalech. And you have in the Noach, et ha'elokim hitalech Noach. So you have very similar words, but different people. So I was thinking that the Adama opens up. Where?
In Oz Yashir, it's like Tavle Mu'aretz, and then also, but like there's Korach, but then there's also like Korach, Chiswal Korach, and then the other places, the ground opened up with the blood of Hevel when Cain killed Hevel.
Okay, so remember, first of all, let's understand, they can't ask about, let's say, medrashim. We're just going, just the material. So you have here in Perek Dalet, it says in Pasuk Yud Aleph, Va'ata arur ata min hadama asher patzeta et piha. Okay, then you have with Korach and Datan v'Aviram, right? So you have there also, which I find very difficult to understand. Why? Because if you take a look at Perek Tet Zayin Bamidbar, which is in next week's material, okay, Perek Tet Zayin. Keep on going, keep on going. Okay, come on, left-hand page. It says, ready? It says, Vayomer Moshe bezot tedeun ki Adonai shlachem lasot et kol hamaasim ha'ela ki lo milibi im kamot kol adam yimutun elo ufkudat kol adam yipaker alem lo Adonai shlachem v'im b'riya yivra Adonai ufatzata adama et pia. Notice the same thing. Patzata ufatzata adama et pia. Right? So what do you mean v'im b'riya yivra Hashem? We had it over here in Bereshit Perek Dalet. Already had that the Adama Patztat Pia. So I don't know what Moshe Rabbeinu is smoking, you know. It happened already, the land opened up. But that's something to remember, the two places, you know. I probably could go on, I'm sorry, I apologize, you know, but the hour's getting late. Next week, according to the schedule, right, it's the last 10 parakim in Bereshit, the material which is listed, you know, as part of this in Shmot. Vayikra is only, if I recall, 3 parakim, correct? And Bamidbar is 16, so it's 44 parakim to review. We stop at Bamidbar.
We're going to finish Bereshit, and then whatever the material is for Shmot, Vayikra, and Bamidbar.
I apologize. There's so much to ask. I don't have enough time. You know, it kills me. But I want to say, you guys did great for the first time. Really nice. So, and by the way, you should give them my email address if they have any questions. They can email me. Like, I'll respond.
Yeah, I think we'll try. I don't know how many of you use WhatsApp. Do you all use WhatsApp? Some of you? Elisha? Yitzchak?
Yeah.
I use WhatsApp.
Yeah, so we can also open a WhatsApp group. But we should also continue. I don't know if Mira uses WhatsApp, but we can also do that on the you know, have an email group as well. So
Sure.
or just give them your email like you suggested. I know that for some of the people who study in English, you know, using the Art Scroll translation, so we should try and you know, include that as well. And of course we're always recording it, and I do want to mention to you, I'll send you a link to our website where we also have recorded lessons. We're going to add Rabbi Stepansky's lessons as they happen, but we also have recorded lessons from Rabbi Gary Brody from South Africa, who also uses, you know, he uses the English translation as well. So, you know, each one I think should, within all the things that we have, you can probably find the different material or the different way that you can study in the best way.
And for those who are in Johannesburg, I have first cousins who live in Johannesburg. Gita Mazabau and Debbie Rubinowitz. They're even older than me. Anyhow,
okay, so if you have any questions, now is a good time to ask questions. Yep. If you have questions for Ruby now.
Would we be able to take the test in Hebrew and English?
Yeah. The answer is yes. You get the questions in Hebrew and in your language.
Okay, thank you.
So you can get both if you need.
How do you suggest like we study or like have to focus on what we're doing? Because I was.
You know, unfortunately I've never written down my questions. I have not even highlighted. You know, to me, there's so much that goes through. I mean, if you, I underline, I put asterisks in the comments, you know, for example, Madua pneichem ra'im hayom. There's another place in our material which is Madua panecha ra'im. You know, and I'm sure that Livia is going to tell me Nehemiah Perek Beis, which you write on in the Koran, it's the right-hand page. Okay, it's referring to about Nehemiah, Hatir Shata, as they say. But it's a very similar phrase, right? Madua pneichem ra'im, madua panecha ra'im.
It's also similar with Amna and like what his guy, his friend Yonadav said to him.
It's Perek Yud Gimel in Shmuel Beis, yeah. Koren, left-hand page, last paragraph, yeah. But you have also Levivot there. That word, Levivot. But yeah. So by the way, the Keton Pasim is for Tamar, but it's interesting, by the way, we'll finish it off, is that you see that it says in, we said Shmuel Bet Perek Yud Gimel Pasuk Yud Chet about Keton Pasim that the princesses would wear it. So I perceive that Yaakov was alluding to the status of Yosef as like a prince amongst his brothers by his also getting Keton Pasim, you know, which makes sense. That it's unique in those two places. That's it. Anyhow, but like I said, some people use index cards, color coded. You know, honestly, if one could create like a chevrutot, and let's say in South Africa, you could ask questions or however it's easier for you to ask, to bounce questions off somebody else, you know, so you try to quote unquote, I don't mean in a negative sense, to outsmart the person to come up with these great questions, and that sharpens each other. That's the whole concept of chevruta. If that's also
we have a pasuk in Mishlei about that.
I haven't gone in this section, the material in Mishlei in years, you know, unfortunately in years. But I would assume in Mishlei probably they would ask those things to fill in, you know, they'll start you off pasuk and now you have to continue on. And my brain is not that great for things like that, you know. But that is another suggestion. Like I said, index cards is another way. But again, remember topics. You know, you can say, see, that's why I'd asked Amichai, is there a subject matter, you know, a theme?
Yeah, there's usually a theme for the Chidon. They haven't announced it yet for this year. So we'll let you know as soon as we know.
But once you know the theme, then you can start thinking in those
things like leadership, could be leadership, it could be judges, it could be, last year it was plague and you know, getting over plague and health and things like that, obviously. So each year they choose a different theme. They haven't announced this year's theme yet, and there's usually also an underlying pasuk as well.
Right. But keep those questions coming, okay? And we'll just work as a team. That's how I see it, okay?
So we'll see you again next week, same time. And you can watch this again and again. We'll send you the link, obviously, once we're ready, once it's all recorded and set up. Leitrot.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you.